it's Susan, and I'm going to show you some stretches that you can do while you are hiking. So I have a dowel here. We're going to imagine that this is my tree that I'm using for balance. So as you're hiking, and you're going uphill, maybe you're starting on an uphill, you want to get in 5 or 10, 15 minutes of just regular walking so your muscles are warmed up. And then I want you to stop and stretch at some point. If your backpack's heavy and things like that, take that off, find a tree for balance. And one of my favorite stretches is to get those glutes stretched, cross the leg over, and just sit back. So from the side, notice that I'm sitting back, not letting my back collapse, using my tree for balance, sitting into that stretch. I'm going to do both sides. Stretch it out, hold it if it feels good, or you come up and down a little bit in that. If you're on a trail going uphill, you're going to notice that your quads are getting sore. You see people grab their foot and stretch. You don't want to be out like this. That's not great for the hips or your knee joints. So if you're able to grab your foot, keep that standing knee soft, bring the knee in, and just stretch out the quad. It's a lovely quad stretch. Again, make sure you're not out like this. Body's upright. You can hold onto the tree for balance. And then one other way to increase that stretch is to tilt the pelvis just a little bit forward, press out that foot. And of course, you're going to do both sides. Keep the knee in. Another one is you can grab your tree. Imagine that this is my tree. Sink back, nice wide stretch. Again, keep your knees soft if you want, or you can kind of flex and bend. Nice back stretch. Also, nice forward fold will stretch the back of your hamstrings. Feet closer together, a little bit more intense, wider, a little bit more gentle. Again, make sure your backpack's off so not everything's falling and hitting your head. Come up, and then the other thing I want you to make sure you do before you put your boots on is roll out your ankles. So I come up on my toe, roll your ankles out, and this is a great thing to do before you get into those boots. Good. Maybe bend and flex. You're going to do both sides. And then if you notice as you're hiking you have some shin or calf, find a tree or a rock, place your foot up, and you're going to bend into that front leg, stretching out the back of the Achilles. And again, this is something I would recommend doing before you put your boots on too, so you can really get into the back of your leg. Make sure you do both sides. And if you have some weak ankles, if you tend to roll out or roll in, depending on which one you do. So if you have weak inner ankles, rolling out onto your feet, this is a great little exercise to do to strengthen your ankles. Walk around, it looks kind of goofy. Walk back and forth with those ankles turned out. And then same thing, you're going to have to widen your feet a little bit, widen your walk so it's a little bit more of a waddle. Lift the outside of those heels and walk around. This is great for strengthening your ankles. Good. So those are a couple things you can do to strengthen your ankles, stretch. Again, some are for before you put your boots on. Some of them you can do with your boots on and on a trail. Once you're off the trail, I take this little foam roller with me. Of course, during the rain, I don't use it. But in the summertime, sometimes I pull this out, do a little foam rolling on my legs. You can YouTube any of those exercises or stretches. And then one of my favorite stretches to do after a hike is called the world's greatest stretch. You're going to come down on your knees if you're able to. And maybe this is something you do once you get home. But you want to make sure that you're stretching a little bit before you get in the car and drive home, because there's nothing like getting out of the car after a long hike and being absolutely stiff. It sucks. I've done it. So make sure you're doing a little bit of stretching before you sit for your car ride home. Lay it up in the air. You can walk it forward, lean into it. So we can simply be there. That might be a lovely stretch on the front of the hip. Or you can tilt your pelvis, lean into it. That gets that front hip flexor a little bit more. You won't have as much range of motion when you do that pelvis tilt. Or if you have the range of motion and the flexibility, you can grab that back foot, opening up the chest too. So if you're carrying a back pack that's kind of heavy. This feels really nice. So this is good. Nice quad stretch too. The other thing you can do in the same position, I'm going to turn forward so you can see me. Place the hand on the inside. Bring the other hand up and stretch. Nice little twist. Good. So you want to do both sides. Of course, leaning forward into that. Little gentle stretch. Add the leg if you want. And then place the hand on the inside. Rotate open. Come down to stretch out the Achilles. Come onto all fours. You can go back into downward facing dog. Keep the toes up. Pedal one heel down and then the other. If you have a hard time getting up and down off the floor, you can kind of mimic it with your knees bent. Press it down. One and then the other. The other thing you can do, if you're able to sit down on your knees like this is a really lovely foot stretch. Keep those toes flexed. Sit down. You can, if you can't reach down, you can put something in between, like a pillow or something. And then turn the feet over. Sit back. Place your hands behind you and let the knees lift up. This is a lovely shin stretch and front of the foot stretch. And then last but not least, if your back kind of hurts from carrying that backpack, threading the needle from all fours is one of my favorites. Stack your knees underneath your hips. Wrists, shoulders, and elbows are stacked. Inhale an arm up. Look up at it. And I'm going to turn so you can see how I dive through between the opposite hand and leg. Gently press into that palm to increase the stretch. Make sure your neck stays relaxed. Bring your hand behind. Come up. Make sure you do both sides. Inhale that arm up. Exhale, dive through. Press. And then come up. The other thing that's really lovely for your back, lots of yoga movements here, but they're so good. You can round and extend. And the thing that I love about cat-cows is you can't be on all fours. You can sit on your back or on a chair. Hold your knees, round back, really press. And then inhale and lift, stretch through. Exhale, round back. Inhale, press up. So lots of options. Just make sure you're doing some form of stretching on the trail, halfway through your hike, 10 minutes into your hike, wherever feels good, maybe on your break while you're eating lunch, add a little stretching. When you get back to your car, spend at least 5 minutes. If it's not pouring down rain, find some way to stretch at your car before you sit down and get all stiff from riding home. Riding home, yay! All right, you guys, thank you so much. Stretch away, hike away, happy trails.